background. As my fellow educators can relate to, we love all of our kids a million zillion percent equally, but we do have some favorites. And this is a post from one of my favorites from last year, a student named DW, and I'm going to call him DW just to respect his privacy. And so this is on a platform that we used last year called Padlet. We use it in online learning and in hybrid learning to share posts. Some were just general as this one, some had specific prompts. And I'm not going to read you guys the whole post, but as you can start seeing, this student DW was sharing a lot with me. And one of the things he shared with me was that he had come out as bisexual in 6th grade, and he was bullied really badly. As you can probably see through the post, he shares a lot of other hard experiences that he'd already been through in his really short life. And my immediate thought was just, what can I do for DW and students like DW to try to make their experiences at Jose de Diego even just the tiniest bit better. Again, sorry, I should have said this. Jose de Diego is the name of the school where I work. And Gerthy has taught me a lot over the past 2 years about working on things that are in the locus of your control. As much as I have the urge to do a million different things under the sun to try to help everyone, I began brainstorming what I could do under the locus of my control. And so here's the foundation, just some broad background. This is the student DW who wrote the post, and one of his best friends, JB. And just to give some background, in 2020 at Jose de Diego, again, it's the middle school, 6th through 8th graders, there's about between 900 and 1,000 students at the school. It was commonplace to hear slurs towards the LGBTQ community in the hallways, in class, in passing periods, lunch, etc. I witnessed a number of bullying incidents towards openly queer students and students who their peers were just assuming were gay, and that ranged from verbal altercations, social exclusion, and a number of physical fights as well. And amongst my coworkers and the staff, I would not at all say that there was any actively anti-gay discourse, but I also noticed a lack of pro-LGBTQ discourse happening at the school. When these incidents were happening with students being bullied for being gay, I didn't feel as though there was a response happening more than just like, hey, don't say that again. And I wanted to include a quote from a student who ended up joining the club that I helped to start. The student KB said that kids need to stop bullying people for just being who they are. And so that's just to kind of set the stage a little bit. So this is another one of my students from last year, CS. She and one of her friends made me these earrings, and I like to flex them as much as possible. The vision that I had going into this cohort and into my second year of teaching was, what can I do to be a part of creating a school environment where queer students are safe and respected? And again, as kind of goes without saying, but to just give this the foundation, with a safer environment for queer students, students will be able to focus more on achieving their academic and educational goals rather than constantly worrying for their safety. And again, this is what I noticed with DW. He came back in person and was in a hybrid class. This was just me, him, and another student in person. And a lot of the students who had been bullying him were still online. And so when it was just a small group in class, he really excelled. But as soon as the other factors came around, the kids calling him names, I'm not sure if he was going to get into a fight, his academic performance was declining. So this, just to give you guys an idea of the strategies that I implemented, I wanted to start a club like a Gay Straight Alliance or something of that nature. And so you see on the right the flyer that I created for our club fair that I handed out to students. I conducted research regarding LGBTQ initiatives at schools. So I was looking through the GLAAD websites, the GSA website, the HRC website, and to just kind of find what folks found worked best for them. I reached out to admin. Again, as Gertie said, it's important to make those relationships with all the stakeholders and all the people involved. So I contacted them about what worked best for them. I brainstormed with staff and the students and started spreading the word that I wanted to start a Gay Straight Alliance, this sort of club. And following the club fair, my plan was to begin meetings of a Gay Straight Alliance. So as has been, kind of the talk of or one of the many talks of the news cycle this spring, the Don't Say Gay bill kind of put a damper on my immediate vision. A lot of students came to me and said they wanted to be a part of the club, but they didn't feel comfortable being in a club with gay in the title, and not being sure how to explain that to their parents. I also, in conversations with admin, I want to say that my principal has been incredibly supportive, but he expressed a lot of uncertainty regarding parent reaction given the bill and the language of the bill as well. And then I also, realized that with testing, and personally, I suffered a concussion and COVID this year, and so I've missed a chunk of school. The lack of consistency also ended up being kind of a barrier to like this regular environment that I was trying to create. But all of that being said, I did want to share some of the adjustments and then some of the successes that we have had. So the first adjustment was in talking to the students who wanted to join the club, but were nervous about talking to their parents about it. We renamed the club to Culture Club. And again, we framed it as discussing pop culture topics and engaging in games and activities related to pop culture, which we found was a good way to keep it broad and make it so folks weren't worried about talking to their parents about being a part of the club. I also wanted to have a couple of different activities that folks could participate in, not just in terms of being a part of the club. And so we had on April 28th, 2022, an educators rally against the Don't Say Gay bill action, where teachers at Jose Diego wore purple shirts in solidarity with, or I guess in opposition to the bill. I also, again, as I said, wanted to share some of our successes, and in talking to Angel about how to best show the success of the club, he was sharing that quotes and anecdotes are probably the best way to go about it. And so I wanted to share some of those with y'all. So if y'all see on here, I'll get my annotated tool. Right here, this is DG. She's a 6th grade student, and she came to one of our club sessions and shared a lot of details about her first relationship that she had with a girl. And it was really cool because the other students in the room, here are some of those students right here, were able to listen and were able to give her a lot of advice from their experiences with both queer relationships and straight relationships, and give her a lot of feedback. This student right here, KG, listened extremely attentively and gave a lot of really good advice. And she told me later on that she loved coming to the meetings because they were fun and she learned something new. And I was also really moved right after that meeting with DG. KG came up to me later on in that day and asked if I knew how DG was doing, because she was worried about her following their conversations that morning and she wanted to make sure she was okay. This is another one of my babies from this year in the third picture, JW. I'd been curious to hear what her thoughts were about coming to the club, and she said to me, "Gay people is a vibe, gay people is cool." And I was like, honestly, I love that. Thank you, sweetheart. And she made sure to pose like this so I could include her in the PowerPoint. The student on the right, this is PM. She shared with me that after coming to the club, she felt like none of her other teachers listened to her about her girlfriends aside from me. And I really appreciated her sharing that with me and Annalise, who's on the call, my roommate, knows I talk about Paris, or PM, excuse me, all the time. I adore this child. And this is a picture of her that I sent to her mom because her mom always gets calls from school about her acting up, but she got really into Mayan this year and was reading some Mayan graphic organizers, which was really, really cool. Or not graphic novels, rather, which was really cool. Another thing that I talked with Angel about in our session regarding how to best give a presentation was talking about the ripple effects of the club as well. And I wasn't really, I guess going into this project, I was more focused on what impact could be made specifically during a club space, but I've noticed a lot that I've seen ripple effects from kids knowing that this club exists. And I wanted to share a couple of those, or kids and faculty and staff knowing that the club exists, and wanted to share some of those as well. Right here, these gentlemen are both named CB. There's CB in the red and CB in the blue. And CB and I have been making, CB is his favorite person in the world is Nicki Minaj, and he makes this CB in the red, and he makes sure that everybody knows. And we talk, very openly about sexuality and experience in the world as queer people. And we were having this conversation, and this CB in the blue is one of the coolest kids in the grade. And he went up to CB in the red, and he was like, man, I love you. And he was talking about being gay, which I thought was really cool. Right here, this is, I've been wearing this pin to kind of show to gather student interest and have folks know that I was someone who could come to both in and out of the club. And another teacher asked me if I could get her a matching pin so she could show her support to students as well. And so I got DJ, who's a 8th grade social studies teacher, a matching pin as well. And then this final picture is of my some students in my 7th period class who have just given me hell on earth this year, but I really adore them. They've taken some years off my life, but I love them deeply. Anywho, when I first told the kids and was talking about the club, a student in the class, RP, had said to me, man, miss, you're starting a fruity club. And I got really offended. And I know he wasn't trying to do anything, super malicious, but language of words like fruity has negative connotations. And I didn't appreciate that he said that. So following, the club being rolled out and knowing that his friends were starting to go to the club, we had a really sweet and earnest conversation. And he said to me, this was with the whole class, but RP and I were kind of dictating the conversation. And RP was asking me if there were different tiers of gay. And I was like, I don't really understand what you mean. And he was like, well, you would be a pro gay because you've been gay for a little bit of time. Then adult would be a veteran gay because they've been gay for a long time. And then someone our age would be a baby gay. And I was like, I don't really know what, I burst out laughing because I don't know, I don't even really know how to make of that, but it was a really sweet interaction. And it struck me as a really cool, 180 moment from comments about a fruity club just months earlier. And another student in that same conversation said that she appreciated she appreciated going to the club because she felt like I and the club members understood the things that they were going through because I'd gone through similar experiences myself. And so to continue what the future holds for Culture Club and just queer celebration initiatives at JD in general, as I shared earlier, the principal has been super supportive about how to be creative in terms of creating space for LGBT students, even after the bill, which I thought was really cool. The first year, he was at my school site, so that he wanted to continue the club next year. Also, shout out to Nina. This one's about you, but I had a conversation with Nina regarding community partnership for someone in the community who's at a law firm who wants to raise money for initiatives supporting LGBTQ students. We specifically talked about trainings for CMs, especially in, in Don't Say Gay Florida, and how they can still show up and still be creating these spaces for their students. And we're also in the business of brainstorming what Pride activities we can be done in June during the last couple of days of school. And then just to kind of sum it up, some of my big takeaways, again, ripple effects I was talking about, improved discourse between students, and I shared some of those cute anecdotes, but I've really noticed, students knowing that their friend is going to the club has really helped the discourse that's been going on among students. That student that I highlighted earlier, PM, grew 231 points this year in her Lexile level. And I know there are a million different factors in that, but I've really noticed in our class, because she knows that she can be herself and the kids in the class don't care. They're like, that's just who she is. Then we're able to spend a lot of time on her reading, and she's made huge strides. And yeah, I just wanted to leave you guys off. This is a picture of DW. He gave me his 8th grade graduating picture the other day. And it's been a tough ride, but he is going to be graduating the 8th grade and going on to high school. And I just wanted to give him a hella shout out because he's a badass little kid. But anyway, yeah, thank you guys for your time. Sorry for the rambles, but I appreciate you all very much.
Awesome, Annie. Thank you so much. Such incredible work that you have done. This is so awesome. Okay, I'm going to open up the floor for a few questions. Do we have any questions?
Can I actually ask Mina? Can I ask you a question? I'm just seeing your message, and I would love to hear about the other stakeholders and folks that you've been in communication with.
Yeah, of course. Some of it has been internally with the National PRISM Alliance. So we don't have a PRISM coalition here in Miami. So I've been having conversations with them to try and get it started. And I just realized with a PRISM coalition here, we can have stakeholders that are, they could be part of TFA, so it could be CMs, alum, it could be, external stakeholders, donors. So reaching out to the law firm to see if they are interested in participating, and if so, I would love for them to be a board member on the PRISM coalition. And reaching out to a couple of other local LGBTQ plus organizations that I'm hoping to get that conversation going. So thanks to the conversation that I had with you. I mean, it all got it started, and yeah, looks like we're going to be getting some support. So that's awesome.
Thank you. You rock.
That's super awesome. Are there any other questions coming up?
Yes, Annie, amazing work. It was super cool to hear about your project. My question for you is, what advice would you give to a core member that's looking to start a similar initiative at their school?
That's a great question. Thank you, Matt. Yes, so I think one of my would be talking to the students or talking to the core member about the name of the club, because I think that posed a big pause for a lot of students. Even with renaming the club, there was still that uncertainty and that fear of not wanting to have to share that with their parents. And again, I know that we don't want to be encouraging keeping things from students' parents, but again, as we all can understand that coming out is a process, or exploring one's sexuality is a process, and I would never want to be requiring a student to have to come out to their parent before they're ready. And so framing it with the incoming core member about like, this can just a safe space or something of that nature, as opposed to, as much as I'm in the place in my life where I want to fly a rainbow flag everywhere I go. A lot of people aren't in that same place, especially a lot of our kids. And so I almost wonder even with the name change, there could have been a lot more students who participated and had that space to come in and figure things out and discuss and meet like-minded friends and peers, because they were frightened about the implications of like automatically attaching themselves to something that had gay in the title. And so that's definitely something that I would have done again. And I would, even though that sounds counterintuitive, we want to always be, proud of who we are and love it on who we are. It's a complicated process and a very, gentle and complicated and all the things, especially for kids, middle schoolers who are, they're 12 years old. They're figuring a lot of stuff out. And so, beginning the space is called like a safe space, or just even like having your door open and having like a rainbow on your door so people knew they could come in before school or after school and talk to you. I think that could help a lot. Thank you, Matt. That's a great question.
Like kind of similar to what Matt was asking. First off, like amazing work, Annie. Like I see firsthand the work that you've done with your kids all the time and the love that they show you when they run up and give you hugs, and it's always apparent. And this is just another example. I think for me, similar to Matt, but outside of that, not so much as like, how do I start an organization to help affirm a lot of our students? How do we do this day to day? And that's more so of like, I'm curious, I'm sure folks on the phone are curious. At the end of the day, we all have some type of hand in education. And selfishly, I'm going to be in charge of an entire school building this summer. What's the day-to-day work for creating inclusive spaces for students, right? Well, they don't just feel safe, but they feel like I can truly be myself. I can be outward, I can be who I am, and I'm affirmed here. What does that day-to-day work look like? Like I said, I'm gonna be running a school, I coach teachers. There are things that I know I miss and I don't look at and I don't see, especially when I'm getting feedback and when I'm coaching folks and I'm trying to help and develop. What do we need to do in order to make sure that every day we're doing something in service of creating inclusive spaces for our students?
Awesome question. Thank you so much. And thank you for your kind words as well. I would say, as little things like a pin or a sign on your door, those sorts of things cannot, like, even though those seem, they get critiqued being performative or whatever, I think that for our kids, they actually can make a big difference. I think like the kids always ask me, like, I wear a bunch of different pins. I wear a rainbow pin. I wear a I love someone with autism pin. So the kids ask me about those things. And that, immediately starts those conversations. I think also I've been noticing it I've been trying to be very cognizant of the way that I talk to the kids about, their lives and their experiences. So for example, when we did a vision board the other day, is just kind of a breath from testing. And when I told the kids that they could include things like career, education, relationships, home, and something else. I don't know. But I made sure, because a lot of kids were asking, what do you mean by relationships? I just said partner. So they're like, just little things like that, you know what I mean? Or if the kid's telling me that they're dating someone, oh, like, what do they like? And not just automatically jumping into things like that. A kid, I don't know, I think it's in the little interactions that you have with the kids where you aren't automatically assuming one way or the other, you're leaving it open, can really make a big difference. So yeah, thank you.
Awesome, amazing work. Thank you all so much for your questions. Annie, thank you again for engaging and for starting and kicking us off, especially I think like the timing of your work is like so critical right now, as we are all trying to process this bill in Florida and what this means for our kids and what this means for our work. And I thank you for like almost like pioneering that for us as a TFA community. So we appreciate you for that. Awesome. Show Annie some love in the chats. Great. So we're going to get ready to transition with our second presentation. Raven, let us know when you are ready to go.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, because I'm on my phone audio. All right, so All right, so I called my presentation, or I titled it Musical Mustangs, Madison Middle School 2021-2022. I am Raven. I'm a 7th grade English, ELA, and intensive reading teacher at Madison Middle School. So initially, I didn't know what I was going to do for this project when I first selected it, because my time was compromised a lot due to numerous things. However, if you know who Justin Penn is, he got me into Guitars Over Guns, and apparently nobody else wanted to do it, to be honest, but I took on the task. So I took it on with a purpose, though. So, like, something to think about is, how has music or art changed your life? This is what we use to help the kids. Madison Middle School has a reputation for being a violent school. There's been a lot of fights, a lot of gang violence. A couple months ago, one of our students was jumped by 4 or 5 other students. So we have a lot of violence that has gone on, especially this year. And I tried to figure out a way to stop that, to combat that, to try to get some of the students, if not all, as long as you can help one, get away from that life or that mindset. So a little bit about me. Once again, my name is Raven, also known as Miss Tyler, to about 104 students. 7th grade ELA and intensive reading teacher. I attended North Carolina A&T State University. I just have to tell people that. And right now I'm attending Syracuse University online, and I signed up to be the ISC for Guitars Over Guns, which is the in-school coordinator. So once again, I said I did this with a purpose, and the purpose was to get students to do something besides be violent, to get them out of that mindset, to get them focused on something. It was more so an incentive that many of them did enjoy. So yeah, I decided to accept the opportunity for the in-school coordinator position to combat violence at Madison Middle School. And here's a picture of some of my kids. The one in the front with the red guitar, her name is Brianna. We're going to talk about her a little bit, because she was one of my favorite students this year who made a complete transition. Oh, and that's Birdman, also Sean, that's one of the mentors. All right, so there's a lot of words on the screen. I'm not going to read all of it, but the problem and root cause we got down to at Madison Middle School is in West Little River, Miami, Florida. The residents are affected by the government, the neglect of the government, and slumlords, which creates about 32% poverty rate, which is double that in Miami-Dade County and Florida. So the graduation rate for students is 72% in this area, which is a lot. You would think that it's a lot, but that's compared to 82% nationally. So poverty and other adversities cause students to turn to violence, drugs, and dropping out of school. So the solution, I became the in-school coordinator for them, once again, to combat violence. My goal was to grab the students' interest in music or poetry, to provide them with an outlet and a way to help them, and a healthy way to express their emotions. So we stay after on Tuesdays and Thursdays. They stay from 4 to 6 p.m. They learn new music, they get to learn new instruments, they get to sing, they get to rap, they get to say poetry, they get to create beats, whatever they want to do. I actually thought that this was kind of funny, but in a dark humor type of way. So it says, this was on Madison Middle School's reviews. Your child better be ready to fight, because that's exactly what they're going to do. And this was a review for Madison Middle School, which I really feel is a derogatory way to think of Madison. I think it's a really good school, and I hate that people have this perception, but there is a reality to it. There's a truth to it. There is a lot of violence. All right, so some strategy, Google review is really bad. So some strategies that I used at the beginning of the year, I sought out students, specifically students with behavioral issues, specifically violence, fighting, cursing people out, cursing teachers out. Some of them joined, some of them didn't. I can't, force them to do it, but I was really trying to get those students and those with academic issues to try to improve their grades. This was like an incentive for them. You have to have at least a C to stay in. So I encouraged them to join the program. I plan with the mentors, Corinne, Sean, and John, to focus on students who need an incentive to stay at Madison. So at Madison Middle School, you can only do so much before they transfer you to another school. So this was a way to try to get them to stay, to behave a little better. I encourage them to try something new. A lot of them were saying, I don't like to play instruments, or I don't know how. I can't sing, I can't rap, I'm not into poetry. But we learn something new every day. I try to get them to learn something new, to get out of their comfort zone. And they agreed that they could stay only if they have a C grade in every subject. So some succeeded quickly, some it took some time, some it didn't really work out the way we wanted it to, but we're trying to bring them back. So we have at the top, Sean, Mr. Birdman, one of our mentors, Ms. Corinne, and then we have John on the right. And then below, I know some of you know who that is. That's Mr. Daniel Perez. He's helped me out a lot with this this year. I want to shout them out. All right, so this is a picture of some of our events and some of the days we stayed after. When they were in the tree, this is Brianna again, this is Angel, and this is Leland Tamburino. Those are some of my favorite students in the classes. They were in the tree, we had like a little family fun day for them. So it's not just something we do at school, they have outside activities as well. On the right side, they had a concert. Below, this one of the activities they were doing in school, after school. I don't know if you see the one with the blue socks. That's Manaya. Manaya had a lot of behavioral and academic problems, which is why I tried to get her to come to the program, which she did. Once again, on the right, we have Kevin and David, really good students, but once again, academic issues. Kevin started off the school year with an F in almost everything. He's a sixth grader, and his math grade just wasn't improving. So we had an academic check-in at the program. I told him we'll do tutoring, and you have to get your grade up to a C in order for you to stay. So you have one more marking period to do that. He was able to get it up. We also had tutoring services with the mentors, where they're able to do it for 30 minutes of the time. So that really paid off for him. And then lastly, on the right side, we have Leanna and Yearlin again, our singers. They really love to sing. And Leanna is just an amazing singer. She's done so well this year. She's an 8th grader, so she improved a lot from her 7th grade year. So this is probably my favorite part. Really excited to talk about Brianna. Her name is Brianna Zambrana. She's in 7th grade. Brianna, and I had consent to speak on her. She told me it was okay. She also sent me the picture with the noodles. So Brianna started the year a little rocky. She was skipping class. She had a few hiccups throughout the year, but at the beginning of the year, she skipped class. She got involved with some drugs. She got into a couple of fights. She's been suspended maybe 2 to 3 times this year. I felt that it was important to get her into the program because she is a fabulous musician. It is one of her passions. She said that she wants to have her own band. So I got her into the program, and I told her that the best way for her to improve her behavior is to focus on something like guitars over guns. So she started playing the guitar again, and it did help improve her behavior. It helped with her academics, especially in my class. She now has an A in my class, so we went from a D to an A, and she's promised to not be in any more fights, which she has succeeded in. So she hasn't been in a fight since around December, which may not seem like a long time, but it's a lot of improvement for her because that was the road she was taking. She was dealing with drugs and she got caught at school with drugs and was suspended for numerous days, in which I told her the incentive was broken and you can't come back to the program until you're done with that, until you say apology to teachers, till you fix whatever you have going on. So I talked to her mother about it. We've finally let her come back to the program, and she's vowed to not go back to the drugs, which she hasn't, and I'm very proud of her. She's made a complete change. This is something she wrote, and I am going to read it because I was very proud of this. I gave them a prompt on what do you want to be, what do you want to do with your life, and what would you do if something or someone got into your way? And she said, my dreams and ambitions are to finish school, help my family get a business, and to be happy, which I love. I will achieve them by trying my best not to get in trouble, doing my schoolwork, focus on me, and get a job. If I achieve my dreams and ambitions, I will feel great, very proud, and happy of myself. If someone got in my way, I would just try harder, control my emotions, and not give up. So we've had a lot of one-on-ones, and one of the things I always tell her is that she has to control her emotions and not let it get the best of her so that she won't get in trouble. And then focusing on herself. She was hanging around with the wrong crowd, and she did admit that she was trying to fit in. And I explained to her that fitting in is not important. They're not as cool as you think they are. Being cool is being sober, not fighting, and coming to school and not skipping your classes. So I'm very proud of the 180 change she has made. All right, I do have a video just so you can see them playing. Hopefully you can hear it because I am on my phone. Be playing at the same time. Can everyone hear this? No, maybe.
I was hearing it, yeah, but then you paused it.
Oh. All right, so that was a couple months ago, but it's one of my favorite videos because that was one of their first performances in front of the school. So no, they're not like a Jackson 5, they're not like the hottest band out, but they do a really great job and they learned that song very fast. And I was very proud of them. All right, so how can others help? Others can volunteer with Guitars Over Guns as a mentor or also become an in-school coordinator. You can also donate to the program to keep the program funded or to the school, Madison Middle, or to this email Tanisha at tanisha@guitarsoverguns.org. Or you can come to the concerts and fundraisers. Support the students. Madison will have their final concert on May 26th after school. It's specifically for parents or anybody who wants to join. And that would be it. Any questions? The next Jackson 5. I hope so.
Raven, do you ever get to sing or play guitar or anything with them?
Oh, they want me to sing a lot of the time. I tell them all the time, Miss Tyler does not sing. She doesn't do that. No, I don't stand in front of people. They have a lot more guts than I do because they sing and they dance and they play their instruments in front of anyone. So yeah, I don't really, I just go, I watch. I do all the academic things, you know. Do the students provide their own? No, the students do not provide their own instruments. The instruments are provided by the program. So the mentors will bring the instruments. Does this program work with elementary schools at all? It's specifically middle and high school.
And piggybacking off of Lisa's question, do the donations go in part to also getting more instruments?
Yeah, so it goes in part in getting more instruments. It depends if your school is a Children's Trust site or not. Because that site, mine is, Madison Middle School is, which provides them with money for food and the instruments. Otherwise, the other schools are somewhat focused on donations and fundraising.
Raven, I have like a question not so directly tied to the organization itself. Like, number one, like, kudos to you. I know it can be a lot of work. And every time I see Guitars Over Guns, I get excited, but I also get a little sad just because I have a lot of friends that I know probably would have been in better situations if a program like this existed when I was in school. And that's why, like, I love it. I think it's amazing, and it does an amazing service for a lot of students. Thinking about you personally, how do you balance? Like, how do you keep the balance? Being a teacher is hard enough, and you're a core member, all this stuff, but you have a commitment to students. And so, like, when things get difficult, how do you keep that balance? How do you figure out these competing commitments?
Right. So that is a really good question. The balancing was really hard. It was really hard, which is why at the beginning, I had no idea what I was going to do with the Strengthening Schools pathway. So I really gave it up to Justin Penn. He helped me out. And he introduced me to this program. So I said, okay, I'll do this. So I had this going on. I had, Syracuse going on now, and I had Met 2.0, and I had teaching. It was a lot, and I had to really juggle it. But it's all about time management, for real. The kids make it worthwhile. Do what you can when you can. If I can't do something, they just know that I can't do it. But I show up, and I try to show out. And it's, like I said, it's really for the kids. Whatever helps them, behavioral-wise, academically, I'm all for it, because at the beginning of the year, I'm telling you, the kids were buck wild. They were crazy. Not to say they aren't now. They've calmed down a little bit, but at the beginning of the year, something has to give. We got to try to figure something out, because, so I felt if I could touch one, that's amazing. And I've touched a few of them, but specifically Brianna, I've seen like a complete change in her, and I'm really happy about it.
Raven, amazing work. For those of you who don't know Raven, I think really one of her biggest strengths comes in building relationships with her kids. That's something that she's incredibly strong in. And so my question for you is, what do you think your students learned about working together through the program? Oftentimes in middle school and in any age, really, we see kids like not really want to work together and not get along with each other. And in that video, right, we saw them all like playing together. What do you think your kids learned about working together?
Literally one band, one sound. Like, you can't do everything by yourself, which is also something I emphasize in my classroom. You get a lot of kids, I want to do it by myself. I don't want to work with anyone. That's nice. I was definitely the same way when I was a kid. I didn't want to work with everyone. I wanted to do things alone, but I could only get so far like that. Can't really get as far unless you have the help that you need. And I really think they've seen that throughout the program. I mean, Brianna and Brandon, bass guitar players, they really carry the group. I've seen them sit and help other students with their instruments. So just have them, work together. Regardless of what they say, they'll realize without this person, I wouldn't be as far as I am. And I think that can go for everybody.
Awesome. I love that. Thank you so much, Raven. Go ahead and show Raven some extra love in the chat. I think it's really incredible, like the work that we're seeing, because we just seen 2 examples of some after school activities, one that was created and added to the school, but also like TFA is already a network that already has alum doing work, and Guitars Over Guns is a product of some alumni work, but it takes core members and alumni working in partnership to keep it going and to keep it thriving. So I love that we got to see 2 examples of the work that we can do. So thank you so much, Raven. And thank you for all of your hard work. That's super awesome. Thank you. Great. All right. Since we started a little late today, due to somebody's technical difficulties, I won't say any names. We are going to actually just keep going instead of taking our pause right now. We're going to dig into, Matt, be quiet. I'm the problem. I know it was me. I was the one with the technical issues. But we're going to keep on going and dig into our last presentation of the evening, which is Miss Emma Martin's. Emma, is now a good time. You ready to go?
Yes, thank you.
Awesome.
Okay, so my project is called Radiant Readers. Okay, perfect, just making sure of those. So this is me. I am a 4th grade teacher at Lenore B. Smith Elementary. Last year, I taught math, science, social studies, and intervention. And this year, I just teach math. In 2020, I graduated from Emmanuel College in Massachusetts with my bachelor's in elementary education. And in 2021, I graduated from the University of Miami with my master's in education and social change. Oops. So I open up the floor to you all. Do you read for fun? Feel free to use your annotation tools, give a head nod, use your actual thumbs or your animated thumbs, whichever you prefer. Awesome, so I'm seeing some of us do. I personally, reading for fun is currently my biggest hobby, but it wasn't something I started until about college, and even that it was only on the summers because during the school year I felt that I had to be focused on textbooks and I had no time to read for fun. So that kind of made me really want to foster a love for reading early in my students' lives before they also got boggled down with having to read textbooks, and the balance is really just hard, especially if you don't thoroughly enjoy reading. So that was something that made me want to start this project. Also, another reason why is that children deserve the opportunity to engage in print and text in a meaningful and fun way. I truly believe that students should have access to books wherever they go, whether it's at school or at home, or even have access to the public libraries. I know Miami-Dade public libraries are far throughout the city, but they also can be far within our neighborhoods and can just be out of access to our students. Children who read 20 minutes a day are exposed to 1.8 million words a school year. That's from Honors Grad U, which that statistic just absolutely blew me away because 20 minutes a day is really, that's how long they have for lunch. So if we're taking that amount of time and giving them the opportunity to read, we can really open up our students' vocabularies, their knowledge banks, and all of these other phenomenal things to them just by giving them access to a book for 20 minutes a day. So the problem that I was finding in our schools, or especially in mine, is resources. Students were denied access to use resources on school grounds. They also had limited access to public libraries or personal ones at home. 71% of my students, I have a class of 51 now, 71% of my students did not have access to a library last year. So this means that they really weren't having access to books at all outside of their textbooks. Many of them learned online, so even textbooks looked very different. A lot of the textbooks were adaptive, so they could be read too, which is great and all, but really is taking out that interaction of them engaging with the print. So our school has a wonderful, beautiful library that is filled with books, but it is non-operational, and it hasn't been operational since 2016 when the media specialist disappeared one day and walked out of the library and never came back. So that means my students specifically have never accessed the library at our school. So aside from libraries in classrooms, in public libraries, they did not have access to books. So now I'm going to get into my project, the Radiant Readers Library. My project was to create a space that allowed students the access to get their hands on print and really just be able to engage in it in a fun way. My library started off in this top left corner in just this little top 2 shelves. I was so excited to get it open. And then it quickly grew where I had to open up the bottom shelf. So I still have some room down there. I'm looking to fill those gaps, but our library has grown a tremendous amount. And on average, 73.5% of my students in our grade check out a book weekly. So we work on a weekly system where students can check out one book at a time per week. I'll talk about that a little bit more in the coming slides. But this is our library. We've grown. My stuffed animal collection on the top has grown. We are just growing in our classroom. So some of my main contributors, I had a lot of family and friends that donated to my library. When I became a first-year teacher last year, I told everybody that having books was one of the most important things to me. And that was because my student teacher the teacher that I did my student teaching with, her library was phenomenal, and she had kids on 2nd grade level reading like full-on chapter books, but she had all access to those things. So regardless of the reading level that they were at, her library provided them challenging texts and engaging texts. So I was very strong about posting on Facebook, asking for donations. A lot of people have kids' books that they don't even realize that they have anymore, as they're like full-grown adults or their children are in college and no longer need them. So I was able to get a lot of donations that way. I also did an Amazon wish list at the beginning of my school year, and a lot of my high school friends and friends from home and family donated to that. And then I did a Donors Choose, which was my more recent grouping of books, and that's what's pictured here. And so with that, people funded me, and Donors Choose does a really great job of matching donations. So I was able to get a whole bunch of books, and this picture now holds almost all of the crowd favorites that my kids are currently fighting over every week. So our outcomes were enjoyment, responsibility, and community. 84% of the students stated that they now enjoy reading for fun. Responsibility, part of the project was to really make sure that students were being held accountable and being able to engage in materials in a responsible way, and understanding that not everything that you get to keep at school requires you to write your name all over it or leave it at home and never bring it back. So we really worked with them on that, which I'll talk about on the next few slides. But being responsible for something that doesn't belong to you and taking care of it so that other people can also have it and enjoy it. And then a sense of community. The students really loved engaging with each other about their favorite books, about who was going to get this book, and next week they'll put it back in a special spot so that their friend can get it and read it. And it was really just awesome to see them engage in that way and really have fun just reading and talking about it. So another outcome was that I realized that my kids did not have access to free time to read. And I know that part of it as a classroom teacher is my fault too, but we're departmentalized. So similar to middle school and high school, you're only allowed to teach your one subject. So from the second you see them till the second you leave, you're crunch time, you're working, you're teaching math, you're working on math homework, whatever it is, you're doing it. And so that's how it is in all of our classes. And we really didn't have any time for them to read. So by giving them the access to the books, I just wanted to make sure that they now had something to read. So a lot of them would be reading in the halls, on their way to specials, take their books to lunch, and reading at home, which really just was an awesome experience for them to be a part of. Quez, I saw your chat. I will get to you. These are 3 of my girls. They are probably the highest readers. These two, this one here, I don't know if you can see my mouse, the solo one, and then one of the girls in the double shot, they both read one of my books that I read in college for Children's Lit, and it was like a middle school level, but I put it in there because it was so good. And they both have just absolutely ate it up, and they're like, we need more. So they're just doing exactly the purpose of my project, was to get them excited, to get them into these books that they wouldn't necessarily look into. So along with everything good in life, we had some bumps in the road. My initial plan was to just really let kids engage in text and have fun and take out a book and return it and flip through pictures and just enjoy having a book. But they didn't return my books. So I was noticing that all of my new I try and do a lot of culturally responsive books. So a lot of my new ones that I had just gotten off my Amazon wish list were not being brought back. So I had to close down my library. I had to make these signs that made everybody feel some type of way when they walked past them. But the kids were super distraught by it. And we really took the time to realize that like we now, because of our lack of responsibility, are affecting our library, and the numbers of books that we have are dwindling. So we have to be responsible. So since opening up, we do a very strict system where books get checked out on Monday and they have to be returned by Friday. So they're really, really good about it. Thursday night and Friday morning, or Thursday afternoon, Friday morning, they really come and bring all their books back, their book back for the week. It also helps us to promote attendance. I do not allow books to be checked out any other day besides Monday. So if you are not there on Monday, you do not get to check out. So a lot of them will say, oh, I had to make sure I came today so I could get my book. And I'm like, okay, great. Like, you're here. That's awesome. So it has really been a great incentive for them. And if I forget, they're super upset. I've had to rotate some scheduling because everybody wants to read Dogman, but by the time the third class goes, there's no more Dogman. So I've had to do some shifting, and they're like, but it's Monday and we haven't checked out yet. I'm like, it's okay, it's part of the plan. So they really dove into it, and I couldn't be happier with the outcomes of it. Here we have some student feedback. I did a survey to see how they were interacting with it. And I asked how it made them feel. And one of my students said, before I didn't like books, now I do because of this library, which is just the cutest thing. And he's just the sweetest little boy. So it was so awesome to hear from him. Some of our crowd favorites are Dogman, Dork Diaries, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, and Captain Underpants, all in which are the graphic novels and comic books. But the kids are totally eating them up, and they don't realize how much they're actually reading because there's so many pictures and there are speech bubbles, and they just really are loving it. Another thing about my project that's so special is I have so many kids that are reading far below grade level, and they all still grab the same books. And I have some kids that can't even read English, and they're also grabbing a book. So it's like whether they are actually reading or just feeling so excited to be a part of the bigger project and the bigger idea of checking out a book, it really is such a great feeling. So I asked students to pick 3 words to describe their experience, and good, happy, and cool were on the top. The amount of people that also felt that it was just an okay feeling was surprisingly didn't show through this graphic, but a lot of people did feel that it was okay. So that was great to see. A lot of people felt educated, smart, inspired, inspiring, ready for 5th grade. We had a variety of phrases that demonstrated how the students felt. And so moving forward, I decided on 3 different things that people can do to help libraries like mine and reading in general grow as we continue on. I decided on advocating, donating, and reaching out. Advocating for students, asking questions with teachers and students and parents, and really anybody that has this child, anybody that is able to get print into kids' hands. I know that next year it is reported that media specialists will be back into the school. So that means that on the hopes of more libraries opening up, which means that there are programs at hand to help aid libraries. One of them in which is AR. AR is a leveled reading program that classifies all the books according to reading level. So students go and pick out a book of that level, with a wide variety, obviously not just like 4 books that they can pick. And the idea is to help them grow in their reading. So AR, the students read the book 3 times. They take a quiz, they do a mini book report, and then the program tracks their growth, and they are able to either move up or stay in that level. And the results of AR have been really, really awesome. So I've heard. Our school used to have AR, but since we no longer had a working library, the funds got allocated to some other need. So we currently do not have AR, but all of our books are already organized for AR. So if you know any stakeholders or anybody that would like to donate to our school, the programming is about $7,000. So obviously pricey, but the resource of AR, that's something that would grow in Miami-Dade public schools for a while. I mean, we have 1 through 5 now, but the better readers they are, the higher it will impact their middle school and high school education. So it would really be a trickling down effect. Donate. You can find a local classroom like my own. We are always looking for donations, donations of books. One of my school counselors, she has a daughter that's in middle school. Whenever her daughter is done with the book, she donates it. So it's really a great resource there. I also have a Current Donors Choose project that I'm going to drop in the chat. Along with books, I realized that with the heat in the summer and the state of our school, I want to ensure that my library will last for years to come. So I want to make sure that my books are being stored in the airtight containers to make sure that my students next year can have the same opportunity. Donors Choose right now is matching all donations. So my project is actually almost funded, which is very exciting. And then reach out, just encourage people to get books in children's hands. I always say when I give presents to my nieces and nephews, they always get a book. And my godson is always like, oh, another book. And I'm like, yes, another book. You will enjoy it and you will have fun. So they make a lot of different books. He was into Space Jam and he got a Space Jam book last year and he loved every second of it. So there's a lot of different ways to encourage people to engage in text. And here's a few pictures of my students doing exactly that. Some group poses, and a few minutes we had extra time that allowed them to take out their book and dive right in. Questions? Oh, I have to show this slide because Slides Go told me to include it in my PowerPoint. Okay, let me.
Emma, I have a question. Number one, like amazing work. Like I love it. As somebody that was not a reader until I decided to major in philosophy in college, like I get it. It's really difficult. How do I get a little kid to read? And I'm being plain like that for a reason. Like my godsons are becoming of age, and then my nieces and all that. I can't get them to read. I buy them books all the time, but they don't use them. Like they never read them, anything.
Dogman is life-changing. He is anything by, I don't know who said it in the chat, but anything by the Dave Pickley guy. He's the he writes like the graphic novels, and they're so silly and they're so the kids love them. They breeze right through them. It's all like dialogue, so they don't really realize. But they even I realized that he made some for younger kids too, like maybe even 5 or younger. Kind of more like the cardboard books. But it actually wasn't until I was babysitting this summer and the woman had twin 2nd graders. And she said, nope, Dogman is too silly. Dogman will not be read out loud. If you want to read Dogman, read it by yourself. So it really encouraged her boys to go and independently read rather than being read to, which both are great, but reading independently really fosters a lot more skills. So that alone helped push her kids to a higher reading level. I'm gonna drop my Donors Choose project. Yes, Captain Underpants is still a thing, and he's still making them. It's mind blowing. Magic Treehouse, I thought Magic Treehouse was a hit too. I had the whole collection. I think 3 kids have read one. That and Judy B. Jones. I'm like, somebody like Judy B. Jones, come on.
Wait, didn't they call in Judy B. Jones, she called the teacher Miss as well? Or
yes.
She called her Mrs.?
Yeah.
Emma, you're amazing. That was so cool. Do you notice that the kids, like because of smartphones or what, like the instant gratification on phones, have a harder time getting into books? Like that's kind of a surmising that I've made.
Yeah. I think some of them, yes. I think it is interesting because my kids are so young, they're in 4th grade. So it kind of is that split where it's like, depending on the home life, some kids are able to kind of only bring their phone for necessity of needing to call home, and others you can tell are fully involved in TikTok, Instagram, all of it. And so you do wonder where the line is drawn at home, like if they have to put it away and participate at any time. But those kids that are still very active and very mature and on their phones are still getting out books. So they still are reading, they still are grabbing them, they're talking about them, they're sharing them on their walk homes. So I think that a lot of them still like to get into it, even though they can really be engaged or be entertained by their phone at any given time.
Amazing work. It was really cool to see this project come together. Something that I'm wondering is just around like you have such a range of kids in terms of their math ability, right? And so something that I've seen you do really well is reach all of your students and have all of your students have some type of growth. How have you been able to like see that same progress with kids when it comes to reading, and kids who, you know, are really struggling to read and can't quite read yet? How are you able to invest them as well? And how did you
Yeah.
see them be invested?
I think that's a great point. Thank you, Matt. Part of my project too was that I was a math teacher. I am a math teacher. So it's not very common that I go to my bookshelf and take a book off to do a free read, as much as I would love to. And that's really something that I'm hoping I can get into in the future. But it was really important for me just to be like, here's a resource for you. Take a book, read it at home. Maybe you have somebody at home that wants to read to you, or you want to read to a younger sibling or a cousin. Take whatever book you want. So I really made sure to provide a variety of levels. I have a lot of different chapter books. I have the graphic novels, and I have a large selection of picture books. And honestly, my downfall is when I go to TJ Maxx and I see a picture book on sale, I grab it. So anything that has a variety, a lot of words or a few words, to really encompass any type of reader that I have. And even some of them are those books that have no words, that give you the opportunity to share their story. So I have a few of my students who are new to the country, like I mentioned, and they don't read English at all. I think the extent is writing their name, and they're still grabbing books. One of them absolutely loves this animal book that just states facts. So I'm not sure if it's the pictures that are really engaging to him or somebody's reading it at home, but every other week he's getting that book out. So I feel that having a variety of materials and opportunities, and that's why I always am open for donations, has allowed every reader to find something that they can engage in.
I love it. Emma, I also have a question. So you've done a lot of work to build out this library in your classroom. I know you are considering to stay a third year at your school, but beyond that, how can you see this like enduring if you were to not be at your school anymore?
Yes, so I have officially decided to stay another year. So that's why I want to preserve my books in this Florida humidity. But I just encourage everybody. Like, people will come in and be like, wow, I can't believe you have a library. And I'm like, the kids, I really just shout out the kids and let them know how much the kids enjoy it. And I have seen a few different teachers start their own one, and they're like, oh, it's not as big as yours. I'm like, it doesn't matter. The kids enjoy it, and the kids will have books that they read, and some even get excited. I have had some of my students donate their books that they're not reading anymore. And of course, I have to make sure that grownups are aware that you're donating your books. But they just really love to get involved. So I think that my students and I, when I did my survey, talked a lot about how we can encourage other teachers to do this. And a lot of them are like, well, when we're in 5th grade, can we come back and get books? And so it was like, no, because my 4th graders need the books then, but let's think of ways in which we can get either our principal on board with getting us more books, or you can talk to your teachers next year and see if they have a library that maybe was tucked away because of COVID. So I think just really advocating for the students and just letting people know how important reading is, and just how really low cost it can be, because even on Donors Choose, a lot of people are excited to donate to books projects. So just really, the start is more the hardest part, but once you start, you can find a lot of things. Even sometimes I go to like the Goodwill or the Out of the Closet, and they have like $1 a book. So I just kind of get whatever I can.
I love that, because you're also like positioning kids to advocate for themselves, right? And like share with their future teachers, like what it is that they need to feel successful. So I think that that's super cool too. Awesome. If there aren't any more questions, let's show Emma some love in the chat. Awesome. All right. I'm gonna get ready to close out. I just want to give another huge thank you to Annie, Raven, and Emma for your wonderful work today. Like, honestly, I'm so blown away. I know that you all have been working on this stuff like all year long, but to see how you all have like put it all together and have been able to like share with so many people, it's honestly what inspires me to continue to do this work. Like, even when times get hard and like we see the way in which like the system continues to manifest at the school level, and it can get very, very, very discouraging. It's like these are the moments that are like, no, keep going, because it takes those like, it takes an initiative, it takes those clubs, it takes that one child story to like make a huge difference. So thank you all so much for doing this, for going along the journey with me, for, you know, engaging in the workshops, for doing the makeup work, like whatever it took to get to this point today. So thank you. Thank you for all of you who joined in, both staff, family, friends who joined in today. I truly appreciate you all. Continue to spread these stories. Continue to like spread the work of our core members so that we can continue to inspire others to also do this work, right? The goal is to inspire and motivate other people. Feel free to reach out to and connect with our participants to learn more. If you want to get involved, if you want to donate, if you want to support, we are going to share all of their projects and contact information on the website after we complete the presentations of learning. So we'll send that out to anybody who attends. But if y'all want to drop your emails into the chat, feel free to do so as well. If people want to reach out, we also have them on file, so people can always ask. And then continue to support teachers in classrooms, like Emma just shared. We hear these stories all the time. Go on Donors Choose, see what teachers need help, and support them. And then the last thing, because it would not be a TFA session if there wasn't a survey. Thank you, Angel. If you all could please, so presenters, you all obviously will receive a different survey later on, but if you would like to complete this survey to share as your experience as a participant, that would be really helpful as an attendee of the event. If you can share some feedback so we can make it better. You don't have to talk about the whole sound issue in the beginning. That'll be fixed tomorrow. But like any other things that you want to give feedback on, please let us know. And that concludes day one of our presentations of working. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you guys. That was awesome. I appreciate you all. Have a good night.